and row upon row of dark, empty windows. Everyone here knew to stay away from the windows. The kids in Soundview called the roof that Shug was on Pebble Beach. A decade earlier, when he was a boy and Manhattan felt like a faraway kingdom, Shug had brought girls up here on dates, looked out with them at the metropolis, and told them one day he would be a millionaire. The brackish air off Long Island Sound was getting cooler. Shug's right lung ached as he held the smoke in. A scar 10 inches below his armpit marked where a bullet had entered, burst his lung, and dragged him down into a coma. Now he stamped his feet and rasped a couple of times to help his breathing. Shug was 5'6", a lean stack of knotted muscle. His broad mouth and upper jaw revealed 2 front teeth with a slight gap set above a defiant, jutting chin. Hyperkinetic, never fully at rest, he passed the blunt back and forth to a tough, sinewy kid called Mac 11, who had earned his name for his skill with a submachine gun. Outside the stairwell, someone had sprayed a familiar tag, SMM, short for Sex, Money, Murder. SMM was one of the most feared sets, like battalions in an army, of the United Blood Nation. Shug was a general and head of security, and this was his territory, the Soundview houses. To outsiders, Soundview was a jungle, gang-run, crack-blighted, its residents held prisoner by fear and violence. To Shug, it was a place of safety from the police and rival gangs, a fortress and a powerful state within a state. Randall Avenue was the only way into Soundview and the only way out, as if urban planners had built the place with defense in mind. Inside these walls, Shug's authority was unquestioned. Soundview lived by rules laid down by him and his brethren. Beneath the grid of dark rooftops was a vast market for the crack his crew supplied. The orders that had brought Shug to the rooftop came down from SMM's godfather and Shug's childhood friend, Pistol Pete. Where Shug was raw and forthright, Pete flashed a 1,000-watt grin and then slipped behind you to shoot you in the back of the skull. He was only 5'7", but he ruled the black underworld through fear and a Robin Hood reputation that made him a hero among young dealers throughout the projects. Pete came from an American drug dynasty. His father had worked with drug kingpin Nicky Barnes in the 1970s and then helped to establish another syndicate in the early 1980s to bring high-grade heroin to Harlem and the Bronx with the Mafia. But by the mid-1990s, Pete's crack empire had made him more powerful and respected in the underworld than his father ever was. And while the Mafia had Sinatra and the Rat Pack, Pistol Pete had New York rappers like Lord Tariq and Peter Guns, who rhymed about his life and crimes. Pete was a celebrity, spending time in clubs with Tyra Banks, Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, later P. Diddy, and the Ralph Lauren model Tyson Beckford. The Pistol was incarcerated on federal drug and weapons charges in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg County Central Jail in North Carolina. But he could dictate life or death in Soundview any time. The week before, he had phoned Shug from jail and said that David Twin Mullins, their friend and fellow gang member, was a snitch. "Twin gots to go," Pete told him. Although it was never explicitly stated, committing the murder would give Shug OG, or original gangster, status. This might mean he'd get his own autonomous subset under the aegis of Sex, Money, Murder. At first, Shug didn't wholly believe that Twin had ratted. For a start, Twin had higher status than Shug in SMM. He was Pistol Pete's partner. He and his twin brother, Damon Mullins, were well liked in Soundview. And not only was Twin a wealthy drug dealer, but he too had murdered for SMM out of loyalty, killing those who had planned to murder Pete. But then Shug stopped himself. You never analyzed, fed your conscience with doubts before a murder, asking why you would kill one friend to remain loyal to another. That would almost certainly get you killed. And in Soundview, you never went back on a job like this. Faking moves got you killed too. If Shug failed to murder him, Twin's retaliation